So the first one here is about second order thinking about like, okay, well, when AI becomes more mainstream and it replaces X% of white collar jobs, what will that result in? What is the next layer of effect that will result in? What are the second order and really like seventh and eighth order effects of what's happening in the supply chain industry? Or it doesn't have to be related to AI at all, but just thinking down the line and then positioning yourself so that something that like the founder of Under Armour says, if you see something as inevitable and you don't know whether it's going to take 7, 10, or 12 years, well, just work on expediting the inevitable, and then you'll be ahead of the trend and on trend and being confident in that, even if it doesn't pay off in the first year you do it. But you know, over the midterm, it's going to be amazing for your business. Then they invest heavily in areas like that. The second one is just being anti-herd. Like if someone is in a meeting and they say, oh yeah, that's how everyone does it, we need to do it that way, their hair goes up and they almost instantly reject that idea. Or if somebody says, no, we can't do it, the industry best practice is this, they lean forward and want to challenge that. And so Larry Connor was on stage. He grew a $5 billion real estate portfolio. We did a billionaire fireside chat with him at our last event. He's been in outer space, has been to the bottom of the deep sea in a submarine. And he said that when he got into the apartment building business, he hired people from the industry and they were so restrained with how they were trained, he never did that again. He only hires outsiders to run his properties because a normal maintenance technician at a multifamily property will handle 4 to 7 tickets a day. They handle 24 tickets per day with one technician because they break assumptions. They don't work off of how the industry works, how everyone says is the best practice. And because of that, they have a better NOI and they run it like a business, not like a real estate manager. They said that's been key to their success, is rejecting what other people think is common sense and doing almost the opposite of everyone else and making sure that if you're in a meeting and everyone's agreeing, everyone's saying, yeah, that sounds good, that you reject that idea sometimes. And like when Elon said, we're going to try to maybe catch a rocket, and everyone said, that's dumb, that's not possible, it won't happen. And one person said, well, maybe it could eventually if we could figure out these few things. He pointed to that person and said, okay, you're going to be in charge of the catching the rocket project. Because everyone else just rejected it as impossible to do. Average is boring, and a lot of the most successful people I meet are fast moving. They're excited about what they're doing. They only want to work on things that move the needle. They don't want to do something that looks average in any way or is going to perform average. They look for the outliers. Kevin McGovern on stage at our summit in December said that all of business is pattern matching. You figure out what works, you do 10 times more of it, figure out what doesn't work, you try to fix it 1 or 2 times, and then you get rid of it if it doesn't work. We had a pro athlete on stage in December as well. This is Matt Fraser, who won the CrossFit World Championship Games 5 times, and then retired when he could have won it more, but he just got bored, I think. And one of the pro athletes on stage says, well, just table stakes is you have to have a maniacal passion about what you're doing, but you could have that and still not even be competitive or make it. So it's not enough to have that, but on the pro athlete side, to be at the top 0.1%, to do what you're doing at a level that others won't want to match or can match within business, then many times, obviously, that helps. Arnold Schwarzenegger is an example of that. I read his book to my daughters. We read it together. And he said in the book that his real secret was that he enjoyed every minute of the working out. He loved it. And he'd work out with his bodybuilding partners in the morning for 2.5 hours, which is the standard amount to work out. And then he would work out with different partners in the afternoon for another 2.5 hours because no one partner wanted to work out 5 hours a day. But he did, and he did twice as much work and enjoyed it much more than other people, and then crushed everybody because of that. And then when everyone said, we can't even understand what you're saying, you don't speak English very well, and no one can pronounce your last name, you should change it. And they laughed in his face when they said that he wanted to be an actor, and he turned down bodyguard and dance club bouncer roles. He said, no, I'm going for the leading man roles. And then he became the highest paid actor in planet Earth for a while there. And so that determination and the crystal clear vision is something that I've seen within a lot of the billionaire books we've read and interviews. Another example of it is the Home Depot founders. They wrote this book, Built from Scratch, which I definitely recommend. And they talked about it as just an exciting adventure. Others see it as like, oh, they work so hard, all they do is work, or oh, that takes so much work, I would never want to do that. To them, it was like an exciting adventure, and they had fun working on it. So others could judge it as too much hard work, but If you love what you're doing and you're excited about it, then maybe it doesn't feel so much like work compared to others. I saw someone recently who's a definitely a centimillionaire. I don't know if they're a billionaire or not, or they say that publicly. But they said that they try to treat doing business like being a lion. They try to be relatively calm and thoughtful, but then every now and then they put an enormous amount of energy into launching a project, scaling something, getting something done that's worth their time to really chase. And then the other times they're reserving their energy and preserving it. And I've seen that in several cases as well. Peter Thiel says extreme focus is a superpower. And he talks about that ability to have focus is why PayPal became what it did. And then the PayPal mafia of all these billionaires that spun off from PayPal have this mentality of saying, what is the bottleneck? Put all the energy into the bottleneck until that's solved, and don't have 10 priorities. Have one priority, and every manager in the company have one priority, and you get that one thing done, and you live or die on that one thing is your chief objective. Warren Buffett says, if you're really busy, make a list of all your priorities and write down all 20 of them, and then cross out 19 and focus on the one top priority. And so extreme focus comes up again and again and again. It's better to have one unit complete and shipped and go to the next unit versus up a lot of things that you make dissipated progress on, and then you just have a lot of half-done things and nothing got shipped. What's interesting about studying billionaires is, like, one, it takes quite a while to read the 245 books they've authored. But what's interesting is that they are voracious learners themselves. And so it's interesting to read how much they want to suck in information, and then that should encourage you to study them even more as well, and be kind of a self-supporting process. But Mark Cuban said that when he got his first job at a computer software company, he read the computer manual, which is 140 pages long. No one else did, including the owner of the software company who was selling the software they had the license to sell. So everyone that came in, he could answer the questions to, and nobody else could, because nobody wants to read the manual. And that's something that Larry Namer, I didn't have a chance to ask him that question, but I read his book, and yesterday we did the fireside chat with him, and he said in his book, no one else read the manuals. He would just simply read the manual, and then he would have the technical expertise and the knowledge that other people didn't have through that simple act, because no one wants to do the hard work. Everyone wants the shortcut, the easy way, the lazy way. There's no time to read every manual for every piece of software we use these days, but if it's your business, then you should probably read the manual, right? And so Mark Cuban also says it doesn't matter about your capital or your network. If you focus on a niche that's highly valuable and you read everything on that niche and you suck it all in, and you work hard, then you'll run circles around everybody else, because most people don't want to work hard, most people don't focus, and almost no one reads the manual. So if you do those three things, no one can really compete with you, and you'll attract the capital because of your superior ideas. Sunk cost immunity is a mental model of essentially not caring that you've already invested hundreds of hours in a project, or millions of dollars, or hundreds of thousands of dollars. If it's not working, you got to take it out back, like Kevin O'Leary says, and take it behind the barn and put it down, and just move on from it. And getting tied to some emotional connection of a project, or, oh, we already spent this money, oh, we already spend all this time with this partner, and just moving on and focusing on what works is something that a lot of billionaires have the ability to do, which is slightly different from mental liquidity and the ability to be fluid of going into a meeting and thinking, oh, probably we should go this way. And in the meeting, you get clear feedback that you should go the other way, and the data supports that. They need to be able to very quickly change your mind and not be stuck in your thinking. And there's a flexibility and an agility and adaptability to a lot of the $1 billion plus net worth people that we've interviewed, or they've written some of the books that I'm referring to. David Rubenstein here is someone that we're trying to interview right now. We have a couple leads into him, including his PR right-hand man who's been with him for 17 years. But if anyone's friends with him, would love to interview him next. But he's super productive. He's always moving. He doesn't watch TV. He tries to read, a couple books every single week. His team says he's like a shark that never stops moving. He's always processing things. He'll be at a baseball game on national TV, sitting right behind the dugout, and he'll be replying to emails from institutional investors and sovereign wealth funds instantly. And there'll be a group email to 10 private equity executives that all manage tens of billions, and he'll reply instantly, and everyone else takes a week to get back to people. And he says his ability to get back immediately and be super helpful in real time to people is what gets him access to deal flow, relationships, and things that other people don't get access to because he's so productive and fast moving all the time. And that's a real common trait of a lot of the people that I work with. One of them sold his business for $800 million, and he runs around with a Bluetooth in his ear, and he loves what he's doing. He's always negotiating the next transaction, running his business, et cetera, and is fast moving, fast acting, and very decisive. Bezos talks about how when you have 70% of the data, you just have to decide and go. And even with millions of employees, they try to be super decisive and fast moving and not be slow and wait and think about it. And no decision might be the worst decision. We interviewed Tony Robbins, many of you know, because of someone in the room that helped us get that done. So we appreciate that. If you know anyone else, they don't need to be famous. It's actually almost better if they aren't, because they don't have 100 gatekeepers and it won't take weeks of follow-up. We love to interview via a Zoom call or on stage, but we can do an interview via email. We can do an interview via audio message, which is what Tony Robbins did. He just recorded his answers and sent it to me on his iPhone, and then we got the interview done. But Tony Robbins talked about the power of this community, which is the power of proximity. When you're around other people that are raising tens of millions a year or are worth tens of millions of dollars or $100 million plus, or if you fill your brain with 120 books written by billionaires, or play with the Billionaire Collective Intelligence tool, and you're having ideas come into your brain directly from billionaires and not mass media about the latest thing that was done in politics, et cetera, then what do you think that's going to do to your brain and where your focus is and what you're going to notice in the world and what you're going to be taking action on, right? It's going to affect you. Controlled chaos is having a lot going on, and you knowing that's okay. Not everything is going to work that you try, but you're trying many different things as experiments, and then you're pattern matching that and doubling down or 10x down on what's working. And we see that really commonly among the $1 billion plus families. And then the last idea here is just that a lot of people think like, oh yeah, well, they're really well known, so of course they have this massive advantage because they have all this capital, or they have all this credibility, or this huge network. What I found is that they don't put up with bad partners or bad employees, and they expect excellence around them. They have access to capital. They have a better reputation. They see deals first. And all of these 10 things on top of each other stacked is not 1 + 1 + 1. It's really multipliers. And so it's just exponential because at each layer, they're stacking these advantages. And the more you can stack those same advantages for yourself, then probably the better things will go. So here are my top 10 books that I recommend you read. 9 of the 10 are on Audible, in case you want to get through them easily while traveling. These are books all authored by billionaires that are, in my opinion, pure gold for most of us here in the room. I do have a list of all 245 books. If anyone wants that, then you can talk to Jennifer out front or our team members, and we'll send you the PDF. And if you just go to billionaires.com/books, you can just click on the Amazon links and just purchase these today for yourself if you want. It's not an affiliate link. I don't need to make 30 cents off of you for buying the book, but I think you'll love the books. They make for a good gift for someone on your team as well. And I talk about that tool later. So for the sake of time, we'll get moving on. But I hope all of you enjoy the event today. I hope all of you get to try out some of the AI tools we have developed for you and give us feedback if there's other ones you'd like to see us put out for the community. And would like to invite up our first fireside chat speaker of the day, is that Isabel Cloud, up to the stage, and then we'll get started with that interview in just a second. Welcome, Isabel. If you are a founder, raising capital, developing real estate, or you're an investor, would love for you to get involved in the Family Office Club. I've run this community for 18 years now. We've hosted 300 live events. We have 17 million social media group members and followers. We have the #1 YouTube channel on family offices. We have the #1 most popular podcast on family offices. You can learn more about us and our membership options at familyoffices.com. We have 30 in-person events planned in 2026 and another dozen events this year. Please go to familyoffices.com to learn more.